following program is from NET, the National Educational Television Network.
Good evening. Jambo. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, this is Black Journal number 3. Well, last week's selection of Richard Nixon and Spiro Ted Agnew as Republican Party standard bearers has drawn fire from the black press. The 75,000 circulation Baltimore Afro-American, the black paper in Agnew's state, came out with this bitter editorial. The net result of the Republicans' 4-day deliberations in Miami Beach left black voters feeling much like the mythical baseball fans of Mudville when the mighty Casey struck out. The editorial continues. Mr. Agnew's chief claims to fame that he became governor of Maryland as the lesser of two evils and has proven his ability to insult black leaders. This refers to a meeting that Agnew had with 100 black leaders after insurrections rocked Maryland. The black leaders, all moderates, walked out after they felt they had heard enough of what they called his insults. Other black papers echoed their rage over the Republican ticket. Jesse Walker, managing editor of New York's 80,000-plus circulation Amsterdam News, admits that Nixon's nomination comes as no surprise to him, but that the combination of Nixon and Agnew is indeed a shock. The Negro Press International suggested that the Miami insurrections were the catalyst that elected the two law and order men. And prior to the convention, the black press was overwhelmingly pro-Rocky. This public relations people took out full-page ads in black papers, and for a few weeks he was getting more coverage than Hubert Humphrey, who was the Democratic candidate the black press seems to have leaned toward all along. Humphrey has always been aware of the black press, and his pictures with black personalities have appeared frequently in its pages. And the present administration has given black publishers their first opportunity to be in official briefings. Senator McCarthy appears to have discovered the black press in July, perhaps too late, after he spoke at their convention in New York City. Since then, McCarthy's name has been seen by more and more black readers. Black reaction to the Republican nominees was described by Roy Wilkins of the NAACP as chilly. Jackie Robinson, longtime Republican, refused to support Nixon and accused him and the Republicans of selling out to get the Southern vote. Robinson supported Nixon in 1960, and now, in 1968, he's switched to the Democrats. James Farmer, now Republican independent congressional candidate in Brooklyn and former director of CORE, also said he could not back the party's choices. At this stage of the campaign, it seems to black people and the black press as though Republicans have succeeded in making 1968 look more like 1964 when they selected Goldwater. That's what the black press has to say about last week's happening in Miami Beach. A new group entered the spotlight at the convention. It calls itself the Concerned Afro-American Republicans. Its chairman is Washington lawyer and convention observer Thurman Dodson. Is your organization going to support the Nixon-Agnew ticket?
We shall support the ticket because the association is dedicated to the proposition of reversing the terrific imbalance of allegiance to the Democratic Party, which has existed since 1932. And we feel that you cannot win a ball game by running away from it. So we're staying in the ball game. We're going to increase our prestige and our power within the party. And we cannot do that by running away.
Well, isn't it true that at this past convention in Miami that black people in particular had very little of it other than Senator Brooks making a keynote speech?
They had 26 delegates, I believe, and 52 alternates. But that shows the low ebb to which the Republican Negro participation in the Republican Party has come. And that's one of the things that the National Council of Concerned Republicans wants to do. They want to reverse that.
Well, hasn't it also been true of the Republican Party that they have not taken up the staff of black Americans?
Oh, I think they've taken up the staff of black Americans. I think they have been historically our friends. And people like Jackie Robinson are asking Nixon now to do something that he doesn't ask Humphrey to do. He doesn't ask Mr. Humphrey to disavow Senator Russell or Senator Eastland or Senator Talmadge.
Well, how do you feel about the Republican platform and ticket as it is right now? Do you think that it's going to serve needs of black Americans, and you being a black man in the Republican Party, you think it's going to meet your needs?
I think it's a very broad-based program, and I think it can meet the needs of all the citizens of the country.
Kwaheri, Mr. Donson.
Thank you, sir.
Correspondent Claude Lewis of the Philadelphia Bulletin was on hand at the Miami Beach Convention Center. Here are Claude's remarks.
All but a few of the countless speakers at the Republican National Convention last week employed a careful, if vague, rhetoric in their attempt to gain an ever-increasing black vote. Bouquets by the dozen were offered by GOP nominees Richard Nixon and Maryland's Governor Spiro T. Agnew, but most black Americans attending the GOP convention were hardly convinced. The National Council of Afro-American Republicans consistently pointed out that there were as many as 28 all-white delegations attending the affair, and that of the GOP's 1,333 delegates, only 26 were black. Party leaders countered with a cry of new and deep concern about the conditions black Americans are forced to live with. But the GOP skirted almost entirely the issue about which most blacks are deeply concerned: white racism, as spelled out by the President's Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders. As a result of his statements to the Southern Caucus, black voters are aware that Richard Nixon is opposed to busing to help eliminate racial imbalance in the nation's schools, that he has a deep and basic opposition to open housing, and that he will try to capitalize on the political and racial issues of law and order and violence. Finally, as in every election, the GOP rolled out the ghost of Abraham Lincoln, that great Republican who freed the slaves more than 100 years ago. Lincoln's election year resurrection is designed to remind black voters of their alleged indebtedness to the Republican Party. But as I see it, black voters will no longer be fooled by this worn and antiquated political maneuver which serves to insult. All right, Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party freed the slaves, they reason, but what have you done for us lately? The political battlefront will shift from Miami to Chicago later this month, and delegate challenges promise to be one of the most significant aspects of the Democratic National Convention. None will be watched with more interest than that of Mississippi's coalition group led by civil rights activist Charles Evers. They'll try to unseat the regulars, followers of segregationist Governor John Bell Williams.
In a convention starved for drama in 1964, few will forget the Mississippi Challenge. It forced the party to change its rules on seating delegates and set up the real challenge to Mississippi regulars in 1968. The star attraction in 1964 was Fannie Lou Hamer.
The Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now. I question America.
July 2nd, 1968. Black Journal is at Jackson's Convention Hall, where regular Democrats are holding their state convention. Chosen at party caucuses around the state, they are now meeting to pick Mississippi's delegates to the National Convention. The party takes great pains to point out that this is its first integrated convention and has even chosen 4 Negroes, among them Evers, to be delegates to Chicago. But the opposition charges that this is tokenism in a state whose population is half black. They urge suspension of convention rules to permit nomination of additional black delegates.
Jefferson, would you state your name, please, and your status?
Mr. Chairman, Hodding Carter from Washington County.
The delegate from Washington is recognized.
At this point, this convention has an opportunity to undo what it's been doing for all of this state, which is denying to a large segment of true Democrats in this state an opportunity to be heard decisively, and to be given more than a token role in these proceedings. If we do not vote at this time to suspend these rules, we will have completed the process of closing out of the Democratic Party a great number of true Democrats in this state. We will have completed the process which has begun and been carried through so carefully all day, which is to run over decency and democracy as far as participation and active role for all Democrats in the state and this party.
Dr. Matthew Page, one of the 4 blacks chosen as delegates to Chicago. He withdrew last week.
That has been made in this state. I ask that this convention give room for black people in this state to become meaningfully involved and give them the opportunity to be able to make a decision.
The convention listens to these pleas and others like them, and despite vocal minority support for them, refuses to act. Governor Williams leads the counterattack for the forces of the status quo.
We, the people of Mississippi, have shown already that Mississippi and her sister southern states will no longer be taken for granted like a kept woman of easy virtue, suffering all of the indignities and insults that can be heaped upon us and still be expected to return uncomplainingly to the boudoir of our masters.
The convention continues. The insurgents wage another losing battle before the Credentials Committee. It rejects what newspaper editor Hazel Brannon Smith has to say.
Well, the case is that there was no notice given, no proper notice given of the convention in Holmes County, of the precinct meetings, and that when the information was given, after it had been published in the Lexington Advertiser, the party officials changed the polling places in Lexington, and that took all of the Negro delegates, the people in the county attending the convention in Lexington. They went to the courthouse for the meeting, and all of the whites went to the other polling places. They had been instructed privately to go to the polling places where they had cast their ballot.
At the end of the day, there are still only 4 blacks among the 24 convention delegates, but Evers retains his sense of humor. Before finally challenging the regulars, he even has to split the 1 vote he shares with another delegate from his county.
We have 1 vote, and I'm not in accord with Mr. Evers' request casting my vote.
All right, give him his half. Give him his half. I'll take mine.
What are the records so far as the delegation from Jefferson County is concerned?
I'll take my half and give Jimmy his.
I'll take mine.
For what purpose does the delegate from Jefferson rise?
Personal privileges. May I have that?
In the opinion of the chair, under the rules of the House of Representatives, you're entitled to rise on a point of personal privilege. The delegate from Jefferson is recognized.
Thank you very much. I rose, Mr. Chairman, because I'm really concerned about our state, and I'm concerned about the delegation that we're about to vote on. And as I've said many times, I cannot be, and I will not be, used or picked by any group to deny full representation of all the people of this state. And I feel with no malice in my heart that we as Negroes have not been given a fair shake. And for that reason, and I only speak for Charles Evers, have to refuse to accept the nomination to the Democratic Party.
Evers' move ensures the challenge. The insurgents include the Mississippi Freedom Democrats, Young Democrats, NAACP, and the AFL-CIO. They meet the next day as loyal Democrats. The challenge begins.
For us to be a coalition, I beg for one thing, that we remain open to real discussion on issues that are important to the body, or we will not last to get to Chicago. That's all I want to say.
All right. I think you speak the sentiments of the whole group. You certainly speak mine. And I hope that we will have full discussion on all issues.
The assassination of Kennedy now puts us in a new political arena to fight the same fight. I think that the convention challenge offers an ideal opportunity for us to open up the political arena within the confines not only of this coalition, but of the people that each of us collectively and independently attempt to either speak for, speak to, or speak with. I think the Democratic Party is an apparatus that can bring about change only if people like you make it change.
And for God's sake, let us stay together. And let us try to get a representative group that we all can be proud of. And we all can go to Chicago and unseat the rascals that have been there so long. And really make Mississippi a state that we all can be proud of.
A Masonic hall in Jackson last Sunday, just a month after Evers spoke those words. In a lightning-like statewide campaign, the loyal Democrats have picked delegates to attend their own statewide convention. Evidence of their strength is given by the party's presidential candidates, all of whom support the challenge. Senator McGovern sends a telegram. Vice President Humphrey and Senator McCarthy send personal emissaries. Senator Walter Mondale of Minnesota for Humphrey.
Today, the Vice President of the United States has authorized to bring to you a simple message. He supports your challenge at the Chicago Convention.
Manhattan Borough President Percy Sutton, who is for McCarthy.
For today, in all of your significance, you do something that is beautiful. And on the streets of 125th Street, we'd say, baby, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Civil rights leader Bayard Rustin.
And therefore, my friends, do not permit who you are for now to interfere with first getting seated. Because if you don't get seated, you can't vote for nobody.
Supporting Rustin's theory that the party helps those who help themselves, the delegates to the National Convention are chosen without incident. Although the state meeting is 80% black, the delegates chosen to go to Chicago are equally divided as to race in line with the state's population. The day's only fight comes when the nominating committee names Robert Clark, the state's first black legislator since Reconstruction, to be national committeeman over Evers. The floor fight and demonstration provide more excitement in a half hour than the Republicans managed in 4 days at Miami Beach.
So at this time, I place in, with understanding that later I'll be able to give full support, I place in the name of that great leader, Charles Evers. Charles Evers! Charles Evers! Charles Evers! Charles! Charles! Will the delegates please take your seats? Will the Sergeant at Arms assist the chair in having the delegates to please take their seats?
Mr. Chairman.
The chair is going to
Mr. Chairman, it is quite, Mr. Chairman, it's quite clear that this is nothing but another gimmick to make one more man bigger in the Democratic Party. It will not solve the problems of black people in Mississippi. As a delegate from K County,
The fight is bitter but brief, and Evers wins out as national committeeman. As arguments end, Fannie Lou Hamer emerges to heal the wounds and ends the day's proceedings.
Being one of the people from the bottom of the barrel, I'm crying as loud in 1968 as I was crying in 1964 to go tell it on the mountains, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain to let my people go, because my people is not loose yet, and we want you to let my people go. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain to let my people.
The delegates leave the hall weary. Evers himself, after a hard day of politicking, is still not too tired to predict why he thinks the Loyalists will be seated at Chicago.
Well, I think because of the fact that I believe in the Democratic Party. I believe in the mandate that they set out in '64. I believe they're going to keep it. And Mississippi has violated every section of it, every sentence of it. They violated the ruling of the Democratic Executive Committee. And they've done everything just vice versa from what they were supposed to have done. And I just can't see the Democratic Party, National Party, accepting these people back in anymore. We have not had a chance to participate in the past, and we have now a political organization that will permit anyone who wants to participate, free participation, without harassment, without intimidation, and without the economic pressures that have been applied to us in the past.
Well, is the issue race alone, or is there some party loyalty involved?
No, I think this is really, it's involvement of party loyalty and race. It's a combination of the two. Certainly the race is a part of it, and then the party loyalty is the next. We never have had really a Democratic Party here, and those who have been supposed to be Democrats have never really represented the Democrats part of this state, because we haven't been able to participate, nor have, as I said before, many open-minded whites, and all white people here aren't bad. They're all on hate mongers, they're all on murderers, they're all on bombers, but they've been afraid too to be involved because they know what the repercussion they will get from the power trick of this state, and we're tired of that.
People have been saying that you are seeking a national position of leadership, and I wonder if you could clarify.
If people don't know me, those that know me know what I seek, I ask for it. I don't sneak up on it. If I want to be a national figure, I tell it. I have no intention of being a national figure. I want to work in Mississippi. Now, if the TV and radio want to make me that, that's their business. I'm only concerned about Mississippi, and whoever said that's a lie.
Have you any political ambitions at all?
I have whatever ambition that Mississippi want to make me. That's up to people here. I'm ambitious to help to change Mississippi. And whatever that takes, I'm ready.
Evers is ready, and Mississippi's challenge delegation is ready with him for its big test, to unseat the regulars at Chicago. Despite internal differences, they present the most formidable challenge ever made to white status quo politics at a national convention. Those internal differences include a feeling that Evers is seeking too much of the spotlight for himself, and that in their rush for national political recognition, some of the grassroots work for social reform started by the Freedom Movement 4 years ago is being lost by the loyal Democrats. But there's no denying the strength and magnetism of Evers, and the effectiveness of the loyal Democrats depends in large measure upon him. As for the convention, there is a good chance the challenge delegation will succeed, and the regular Mississippi delegation will not be seated as it is now constituted. The Loyalists have overwhelming support from liberal elements in the party, in addition to all the declared presidential candidates. And the Mississippi challenge has already helped to inspire similar ones in Georgia, North Carolina, and Alabama. If the movement wins, it could mean a shift of the balance of political power in the South away from the segregationists to a liberal biracial coalition. If the challenge fails, the road to social progress in the South will have been once again blocked, and the repercussions will be great for the party and for the nation.
American feature films have always been directed by white men, even when the films dealt with black life and used black actors. Black directors are excluded, although blacks now make up 30% of the total movie-going audience. A black man has finally broken through. Ironically, he had to move to Paris to direct a feature film. His name is Melvin Van Peebles. His film, Story of a Three-Day Pass. In the United States, Van Peebles drove a cable car in San Francisco and worked in the post office, where a lot of us have died spiritually. He split for Europe to make films. There he wrote 3 novels, directed a play, and directed several short films before finally getting his break. I talked to him recently in New York. Mel, you split the country, you go to Paris, you get over there and you make yourself a film, become the first black man to direct a major film. Now, I know you had to have something happening to do this. What's happening with it?
Well, the first thing, as far as starting off at the bottom and all that, that's just folklore. I mean, any black cat that has to start off at the bottom, that's what we're fighting about, so they don't have to. I mean, that's what the whole thing is about. After that, when I did get out, I went to the executive bit. That is, I mean, to the man's executive bit, the thing he never tells us about. I cheated and pimped and pushed and lied and stole and everything until I could get him out of the sand. And then now I've come back here hoping that I can use what Pierre gave me to beat Dave over the head with, to let it open up for some of our brothers and sisters. Because it's a very important reason. You see, the man has backed the black writer into a cultural bag. He will only allow him to write about the black problem. The next film I'm going to make will be nothing about white folks, because I don't want directors to be in that same bag. That is, a cat now can say, geez, that's a great film, but it's great because it's about black people and you black. No, it's great because I know my business. You understand what I mean? Now, I make a film about white folks, then they'll see that it's just great, period.
But what about this film that you got right now?
Well, it's revolutionary. At least it's revolutionary with white folks, because now I'm used to seeing a black cat as a human being. And it's a black cat who's a human being. I mean, he's not there working out of their bag in any way. He's just alive. He's just trying to make the best way he can. Well, what happens is a captain gives this soldier, this black soldier who's stationed in a base outside of France, a 3-day pass. And it's a story of this cat who's got this 3-day pass going off like any soldier will do, looking around, and that's the story.
Well, Brother Mal, it looked like the man was on the case. How did it wrap up?
Well, you know, I have to draw you a diagram. The cat's getting ready to have his ashes hauled, you see, and, you know, he's getting ready to booger the loo, you understand? Well, he's not very used to this type of thing. I mean, he's sort of a square cat, but, you know, he finally he's related to somebody as a human being. He's come on in, even him square self, you understand? And the chick is ready, and he's ready. He gets insecure, he gets elated. There's very little that can go wrong right now, so he's almost letting himself go. And then the girl comes on out, and they look at each other, and they smile, and then boom, 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 you know?
Boom. Melvin Van Peebles, America's first black feature film director. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, they've taken a turn to black. Gordon Parks, a famed life photographer, has been signed to direct his first film. And my associate, William Greaves, has just finished producing and directing his first feature film, Take One and Take Two. It's in the final stages of editing.
Lou, just to set the record straight, there have been a number of films by black feature film directors in the 40s, like Paul Lindsay, Oscar Micheaux, and Bill Alexander. These directors were denied access to Hollywood, and their films were seen only in the black communities across the country. And now, people in the news. Colonel Frederick Ellis Davidson, Deputy Commander of the 199th Infantry Brigade in Vietnam and the highest-ranked black officer in actual command of troops, has been nominated by President Johnson to the rank of Army Brigadier General. He is the third black general in Army history. Although 20% of the Army in Vietnam is black, and the black soldier has fought in every American war since the Revolutionary War, there's only been 3 black generals in American Armed Forces history. General Davidson is the third. Davidson's promotion may be the result of the Pentagon meeting held last year between then Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara and the members of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. The association, led by black publisher John Murphy of the Afro-American chain, accused the military of deliberately impeding the advance of high-ranking black military men. Floyd Patterson, former heavyweight boxing champ, has said that he has been married for 1.5 years to a Swedish girl. Says Patterson of the marriage that took place in 1967, there was no secrecy surrounding it. No one asked me about it, and when someone came up to me and said, "Are you married?" I said, "Yes." Patterson denied reports that he is seeking Swedish citizenship. Sammy Davis has opened a liquor store, formerly white-owned, in Dixmoor, Illinois. The liquor store was the site of racial unrest in September of 1964. Davis, who is starring in the musical Golden Boy in London, will be in Dixmoor for the store's opening September 28th. The only black member of the Malvern, Long Island School Board, Reverend Irvin F. Yearling, is resigning in order to devote full time to his organization, the National Negro Congress of Racial Pride, a group that has 1,000 members. Yearling, who last year ran unsuccessfully for Harlem Congressman Adam Clayton Powell's unexpired term, is also, interestingly enough, a member of the John Birch Society. He says that the organization's primary objective is to preserve and proliferate Americanism and expose and eradicate subversive activities in this country. Old baseball players never die, and they don't fade away. A case in point is Leroy Satchel Paige, who has been signed once again to active duty by the Atlanta Braves and is running for the Missouri legislature as representative of Kansas City's Black 11th District. The Raylettes, the female vocal quartet, will no longer provide the background sound for blues singer Ray Charles. According to reports, the split came when the Raylettes asked for an increase in salary. They didn't get it. And that's People in the News for tonight. Coming up, a special Black Journal feature on the semantics of color with George Taylor.
All my life through, I've been so black and blue. I'm white inside. That don't help my case. I can't hide what is on my face. Oh, yes. Ah, yes. Just the plaintive lyrics of the blues. Yes, it's that. But the lyrics tell a familiar story. White on the inside, but black on the outside. Why? Why do we think of black as bad and white as good? An interesting question? Well, that's what the semantics of color is all about. White symbolizes purity, honesty, innocence. A white lie, told without evil intent. White-handed, hands free of evil. White-minded, mental purity. Want to impart goodness? You add white. Black represents evil, wickedness, disgrace, and gloom. Black-hearted, mean and wicked, black-mouthed, foul-talking, profane. Black Tuesday, disaster, blackball. Ha! You've had it. Want to make it bad? You add black. Even the poets used black as bad and white as good. Blake, in his Songs of Innocence, wrote, "My mother bore me in the southern wild, and I am black. But oh, my soul is white. White as the angel is the English child. But I am black, as though bereaved of light." Whites gave black its negative meaning, and with little choice, blacks accepted and helped to propagate it. And we did it mainly through our songs, such as, "What in the world did I do to be so black and blue?" The acceptance was unnoticed and for a long, long time unchallenged. And then suddenly, oh, so beautiful. Oh, so beautiful, such beautiful people. A black consciousness revolution. A revolution that is filling the need for identity and pride by taking the historical negativeness of black and using it in a strong, positive way. As is the case with many revolutions, this one is being waged by our young blacks. We asked several of them, what does the expression "black is beautiful, and it is so beautiful to be black" mean to you? They have their own unique way of expressing themselves. Listen.
It means exactly what it sounds like. Black is beautiful. It's beautiful to be black. Just like if I was white, I would say white is beautiful. It's beautiful to be white because this is a form of self-love, in my opinion. But I'm speaking just for myself. I can't speak for the whole race, but I think it's beautiful to be yourself.
And when you say black, I don't know, but it does something to me, because a lot of people are afraid of that word black, but I am not afraid of it, because if you take it for what it means, as I said to myself, black is a word that means beautiful to me and something that I really believe in for my race, because it's something that brings us together and what we want to fight for. And a lot of us are not afraid of the word black the way the majority of people are, because they don't understand it.
You know, well, in other words, you don't need no suntan or nothing like that to try to hide your color, because black is beautiful.
Long times ago, you used to think that being black, you know, you were ashamed of it because you were, you know, supposed to be brainwashed by the white man that you were inferior to him. But now, you look at yourself and you see how beautiful you are, and you don't have to feel inferior to him anymore. And so when I hear the expression black is beautiful, I think of myself and all of my other black brothers and sisters. And that's what I feel of black is beautiful.
We've always been beautiful, but it's just that people are now discovering it, if that makes any sense. Like, we've always known, but people all over the world are beginning to really dig what it's all about now, and they've stopped suppressing us, and they're letting us go. So I think that's basically what it means, that black is beautiful, or it's hip to be black, because there are quite a few white people that would love to be black now.
But for young people especially, to know the beauty in being black, to know so much about your ancestors and the things you've done in this century, in this day, and in times past, is so, it just means so much. It's like knowing your name, your address, these fundamental things. This is what should be known to all black people, and to white people also. And when you know this, you know how truly beautiful black is, because, I don't know, it's just too good.
And that's where it's at. You're so beautiful. Oh, so beautiful. Oh, so beautiful, such beautiful people. And you're beautiful because you're black, 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 beautiful and black.
It was Election Day yesterday in Roosevelt City, Alabama, the second in the city's two-year history. The balloting produced fewer than 1,000 votes, but what went on in Roosevelt City had national significance nonetheless. And the reason? Black citizens living in the midst of the segregated suburbs of Birmingham have organized a new city that gives them a large measure of control over their political, economic, and social future. Roosevelt City was incorporated in October of 1967 and named in honor of Franklin Roosevelt because its residents equate the plight of blacks in the South today with that of America at the time he became president in 1933. It was formed out of a group of surrounding black neighborhoods which had been carefully excluded from the white surrounding towns as a social and tax liability. Before incorporation, it was kind of a ward of Jefferson County in which it is located. Roosevelt City residents pay taxes and, as usual, for black people, get the least in return. The city's 5,000 residents, virtually all black, organized their community at a traditional neighborhood church meeting. The city itself is a little more than a traffic light on a road map of America between Birmingham and Bessemer, Alabama. Roosevelt people are employed for the most part in the foundries that suffocate the Birmingham area with their pollution. It's largely prosperous with middle-class neighborhoods rivaling those of its white neighbors. But the shacks that give the city its slums contrast sharply with these homes, much as the ancient city garbage cart does with Roosevelt City's new and only police car. Everyone in Roosevelt City's municipal government, from the 5 city councilmen and Mayor Freddie Rogers, re-elected yesterday, serves on an unpaid basis. A city clerk employed at a Birmingham radio station works every night at City Hall. The residents, taking their cue from the officials, volunteer for every kind of municipal service. They include regular cleanups of the unsightly and contaminated undergrowth that the county government has never gotten around to eliminating. Roosevelt City is in the midst of buying its police car on time payments. Its policemen are all unpaid volunteers who put in up to 10-hour shifts after their regular jobs. Ironically, their training has come from the white police chief of Midfield, which Roosevelt City's residents consider the most segregation-minded of its neighbors.
You'll have to. People are the hardest individuals in the world to understand. And the more
One result, black policemen are now giving white people tickets in Alabama, and the white community is reacting, as Police Chief James Foy notes.
My police officer will give me a ticket, and I'm the chief. They don't care. It doesn't matter what color you are. It's not a race barrier here. We're not trying to build one people and tear another people down. White lady called me. She asked me, could we put her in jail? And I said, well, beg your pardon, explain yourself. And she said, do you have the right to put a white woman in jail? I said, well, miss, we are police officers, regardless of how black we are.
Besides such reaction, the surrounding white towns have kept for themselves, as usual, the valuable commercial frontage along the highway that divides the two sides of Roosevelt City. City residents, led by Mayor Rogers, review such actions in discussing the reasons for their incorporation.
We cast out like we were. We had no other choice but to incorporate. There are so many people that are worried about why are we segregating ourselves. That's a funny thing to me. We're not segregating. Our city fathers segregated us far. They blocked us around and took us out of the city, so we had to form our own city. Not for a segregated purpose. It's because of the fact that we had no other choice.
So I feel that we need to do something for ourselves, and we got up and we felt the urge to do it, and now we're doing. We haven't the facilities to do it, but we work with what we have at hand.
Lipscomb didn't want us, Brighton didn't want us, and Brownville didn't want us, and Bessemer didn't want us. So we had to try to lift ourselves, so we joined hands in order to better our condition.
I think this is an opportunity for the Negro to really participate in government affairs, because we've never had this opportunity before, not in Alabama.
What is your feeling toward being excluded from the other communities around us, knowing why you were excluded from these communities? All right, William.
Well, I felt that the main reason why the surrounding cities didn't want us was because of segregation. And I think that this was so instilled so deeply in these people that they felt that they didn't want us, you know. I felt that we were just left out because of our race.
Not until 1969 will Roosevelt City begin to receive substantial tax money as an incorporated city. Its first tax revenue came from the city's only service station. Mayor Rogers is optimistic, however, as he looks to the future.
The revenue from that service station brought us a total of $15.40. I was proud of the $15.40, not because of it came from a Negro station, but because of the fact we knew that we have gone through the right channels in order to get all of the rest of the state money that comes through the gasoline tax.
We have proven that just because that our city fathers refused to take us in, we could band ourselves together and learn how they've been operating their cities all the time and operate our own. All right. We have learned many benefits that you can get from being incorporated. The tax that we pay out, we be getting it back in. All right. And the people that have been coming into our community building these shacks. Amen. The city officials have the privilege now of making them build the houses like they should be built.
Legal organization of Roosevelt City was the brainchild of Birmingham attorney Orzel Billingsley. For Billingsley, the view is to the political and economic future of such communities.
The Negro now sees that he can organize politically. For instance, I am the first Negro judge to be elected or appointed in this state. There will be other Negroes elected to office in the future. I have been asked to incorporate at least 100 areas. This means that we will make a change in the political structure of Alabama.
But if Billingsley is optimistic, some are not. J.C. McNair, photographer who lives in Roosevelt City, commands special respect from other residents. In 1963, McNair's daughter was one of 4 children killed in the still unsolved bombing of a black Birmingham Baptist church.
I resent most strenuously the fact that Roosevelt City is basically an all-black city. It wasn't Roosevelt City's intention to be an all-black city. It was just that we had been left out here and pinned in as a group of black people left out here on this island. And in order to get something done, we had to incorporate in order to try to do something. And we just, by the nature of the boundaries, the gerrymandering, we are an all-black city. But in this day and age, when we are trying our best to be friends and brothers to people the world over, then the mere idea that we are an all-black city isn't an accredit. It's a discredit, not to Roosevelt City, but to Alabama and to America.
Best of all I would like to see is unity between people. I think that with unity between people, love in our heart, all of these things.
But love will not be the whole answer. Alabama has a newly passed law that would prohibit incorporation of most small communities such as Roosevelt City. To illustrate how that law will work, an Alabama judge recently rejected the petition of the poverty-stricken rural community of Gee's Bend to incorporate as a new town with a new name. The residents wanted to rename it King City in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, Black Journal reports on the Nigerian Civil War. The background in brief. In 1960, oil-rich Nigeria won its independence from Britain. 6 years later, army officers from the eastern Igbo area, where most of the oil is concentrated, took over the central government. The Hassas, those Nigerians from the north, staged a counter-coup. In its wake, a reported 35,000 Igbos were killed. And on May 30th of '67, the Igbos declared themselves independent and civil war began. The war is not going well for Biafra. The federal government cut off supply routes with a naval blockade, and the Federal Air Force has control of the skies. But the biggest problem of the Biafra state is how to get in food. Landlocked and blockaded with only short strips of usable runway for planes, thousands of Biafran children are allegedly starving to death. Estimates run as high as several thousand a day. As the peace talks begin at Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, we increasingly read accounts of hundreds of thousands of children dying of malnutrition. We black Americans are concerned about this war, not only by the suffering of our sisters and brothers on both sides, though that would be cause enough, but because it is yet another instance of how the colonial powers have for centuries encouraged the division of African peoples while growing richer by exploiting black natural resources. These divisive techniques are clearly seen when we know that Britain is selling the Federal Republic arms, when Portugal is selling the Biafrans landing rights, when France has negotiated for the Igbo oil rights, and when the United States is concerned with the interest of its oil monopolies, while black men and women and children are dying. The Western powers are profiting through this war, and once again pleas which are directed to the United States to act to find food have gone unheeded, just as the needs of hungry black children in Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia have gone unheeded. Black Journal has invited the Nigerian ambassador to the United Nations and the Biafran special representative to the U.S. to hear their points of view and to learn if some conciliation is possible. First, the Nigerian ambassador to the UN, Mr. Edwin Ogbu. How about the situation that we hear of so much in the press over here? They have pictures in Life magazine of the starvation and deprivation of particularly the Biafran children. Now, this is a war, it's a civil war, and innocent people are going to get hurt, they're going to get killed, but there's a Nigerian official now looking at people in your own state now. Yes. How do you look at this situation, and is it true that this starvation situation is as acute as they say it is?
Even in normal circumstances, depending upon where you are, Mr. House, I'm sure that you can get photographs of starving children. It depends on where you are, but I maintain that the whole story of starvation is being used for political ends. If we as human beings realize that people are suffering as a result of a basic cause, I think the easiest remedy to that is to remove that cause. And in this case, all the federal government is saying is, look, if you think your people are suffering, you agree that you are still part of the country, renounce secession, and we will stop fighting. And there will be relief from all over the world pouring into different parts of the country. And this will end it.
One other thing concerning the Civil War in Nigeria, do you think that there are any Western powers from the white world that have in any way interfered, tried to perpetrate this civil war, because Nigeria is an oil-rich country and has other natural resources? Is there a possibility there could be agitation coming from the outside?
We know that there's not agitation as such, but direct involvement in this regard. We know we have come into possession with some documents of agreements reached between the rebel leader Ogbu and French interests who are interested in getting into possession of concessions that are at present held by Americans and the British and the Dutch in oil rights. We have a copy of a document where there was this agreement, and for which Ogbu received a certain amount of money with which he has been able to purchase arms and ammunition.
But would you also possibly agree that in a country as new in duration since 1960 of being independent, that this is part of the pain of progress?
We believe so. But we do want the rest of the country, of the world, to look at it as such and be sympathetic enough, if possible, to stay away and let us solve the problem ourselves.
Fine. Thank you very much, Brother Ogbu.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Dr. Otui, as a representative here in the United States of the Biafran government, which the Nigerian government says is in secession, and we're very concerned here in the United States, and I'm sure most of Black America is primarily concerned about the situation in Black Africa. From your viewpoint, what is the actual state of affairs concerning the health and welfare in the general population of Biafra? Is it as bad as it's said it's?
It's since gotten worse since this article appeared, because food has not gone in any commensurate quantities to combat the widespread famine and starvation. And day by day, the Lagos government continues to show the world what type of a government it is. You probably read this morning, or suppose sometime yesterday, but several papers carried it this morning, that the planes belonging to the Red Cross were fired at by the Lagos government because they did not want them to take food into Biafra. Well, this is a sacred organization which has won the respect of humanity as a whole. The Red Cross has always been involved wherever there's war to go and give relief to the suffering people. But if a people can stand up, first of all, own up that this is a deliberate act to starve out the Biafrans, because as the Minister of Information said here when he visited about a month and a half ago, in his opinion, the starvation of the masses was a legitimate instrument of warfare. So this was not a coincidence, it was well planned. So conditions continue to get worse every day since food does not get in.
And do you believe that there has been any outside influence by white Western powers influencing the civil war that's going on right now?
Definite. As a matter of fact, one could positively state that we're fighting this war against Britain, primarily, then the Soviet Union. Britain, because of her economic interests, And the Soviet Union, just to gain a foothold on the continent of Africa to spread her ideologies, came in with what they called a cultural agreement with Nigeria, which was followed by a total of 50-something MiGs and bombers to date.
Thank you, Dr. Otue.
Well, thank you very much.
Once again. Last week, the Greek freighter SS Orient Exporter, chartered by UNICEF, was loaded with high-protein food supplies for Biafra, including butter oil, dry milk, and cornmeal. The voyage will take 3 to 4 weeks, and the question is, will she be able to deliver her food cargo in time directly to the starving Igbo children? Political considerations now say no. 4 days ago, Franklin H. Williams, the former United States ambassador to Ghana, sent a cable to the White House which was signed by fellow Afro-Americans. It read in part, quote, "While we express no judgment on the substantive issues involved in this civil war, we are convinced that the destruction of children's lives through action or inaction is not an appropriate weapon in such a conflict." Now, the message urged the United Nations to send agencies now to prevent genocide on both sides. It asked the President of the United States to provide the UN the means for a massive airlift, and it demanded that the International Red Cross start moving food now with funds already provided them for that purpose. It concluded, "We ask the Organization of African Unity to continue its efforts to achieve a ceasefire and settlement of the Civil War, and to open a mercy food corridor." The message was signed by members of Black America, including Dr. Kenneth B. Clark, Floyd McKissick, Omar Pasha Abu Ahmed, the co-chairman of the National Black Power Conference, Livingston Wingate of the New York Urban League, and Charles Kenyatta, chairman of the Mau Mau Society. This plea has gone unanswered. Ambassador Williams told Black Journal he plans to reconvene the same group this week to plan further action. And that's Black Journal for this evening, brothers and sisters. I'm Lou House with William Greaves. We'll return 1 month from tonight on Wednesday, September the 11th. when we'll look at the presidential race, the effects of the Black Revolution on the so-called Negro family, and the major events of concern to Black America. One gay Sige.
This is NET, the National Educational Television Network.